Wow, I think I'm live. This is kind of cool, though I'm actually a minute early, and I don't know if anybody is going to come anyway, but I thought I would vamp for a moment. I hope you are enjoying the apocalypse. It's actually not the apocalypse, at least as long as you have sufficient toilet paper. But what I am going to be talking about today are a couple of ideas for writing prompts. And it looks like there's actually someone in here. If you're in here and you can hear me, it would be really cool if you try the comment section, because I'm sort of discovering how all of this works. And so if you comment, then I can try commenting. And I know I feel like I'm should be getting out like the stone tablet or something. But here, let me try typing something. Here I am. All right. In any case, I think there are a couple people in this room, and I thought I would start. So obviously, ideas for plays come from a whole bunch of different places, and we look to ideas, commonly things that happen to us in real life, not necessarily that happen to us in particular, but maybe things that we observe or experience. I have a feeling that these last few weeks has been a pretty fertile ground for things that we observe as we see these massive lines and all kinds of stuff. But also you can get inspiration to write plays from literature, and that could be a novel or a poem, obviously something like Cats. Oh, there, we have somebody in here. All right, thank you. It could be, as I said, poetry, newspaper articles, obviously current events, history. Art can be a great source of inspiration. And so, whether that's a painting or a photograph. Thank you for coming and joining. This is kind of cool. I've absolutely never done this before in my life. I used to have a guy who lived in my apartment building who was a major YouTuber. I think he has over 1 million subscribers, and unfortunately he's moved out, but he did give me some pointers. But in any case, to go back to where these ideas for plays come, so they can come from art, they can come from music. You might hear a line of dialogue, maybe something somebody says, or maybe something that you just hear in your head. Sometimes students will say, film or television, you have to be a little careful with things that are not in the public domain, obviously, because that's somebody else's copyrighted work. But if it's something, which is usually the problem with film and TV, but because they're obviously a more recent medium. But sometimes you can get ideas from things that are, older, certainly novels. There are older novels that you could adapt, which would be a whole other topic unto itself. But so all of these sources of inspiration, and it could be something as simple as a place. So, for example, August Wilson, wrote an entire cycle of plays all set in Pittsburgh. So it could be some point in history. It could be some object. So, for example, let me grab an object that's near me. So I have this hat, which says Haverford School Tennis, because back in the day, I actually used to coach tennis at the Haverford School on the main line of Philadelphia. It seems like a lifetime ago, back in the 90s. But so the question with all of these sources of inspiration is kind of, what do you do with them? And the first thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to do an exercise, which I think I basically stole from Susan Laurie Parks, which if you're going to steal, you might as well steal from somebody great. And so you can call it 5 seeds or 10 seeds or 20 seeds. You can really do as many. I think that she did 20. But basically, a seed is just a little nugget of a playwriting idea. And so, for example, a backpack lying on the ground is a seed, or an unopened can of garbanzo beans is a seed, or a partially used, maybe 2 people fighting over a roll of toilet paper. That's definitely a seed these days. And so the idea with this exercise, and I do all the exercises that I like to do are time limited. is so maybe you give your students 60 seconds and you ask them to come up with 5 seeds. And it's kind of like one of those free association things. So, for example, if I were to give myself that time, I'm looking around me even, and it doesn't have to be things that are near you. But it could be. So I see cocoa nibs. I do think of 2 people fighting over a roll of toilet paper. I think of people queuing up in line outside the grocery stores right now, keeping socially distant. I see an announcement saying all restaurants are closed to dine in. And I happen to be thinking of the sun's going in and out today. So sun going in and out of the clouds. So there might be seeds there. And I already mentioned the abandoned backpack, which is always a good one. And the idea here is just to make a quick list. They're not all going to be brilliant. The trick is not to worry about whether or not it's going to make a great play later. You're not at that point. And in fact, sometimes the reason that people struggle coming up with ideas is they're too worried about figuring out how it's going to be a play. And so that is definitely not this step. And so once you have that, it's a great way to start a class or something to do every day, just to come up with those 5 seeds, because you're going to come up with this whole list of potential jumping off points for plays. There is a variation on this that I'll talk about. That'll be the last thing I'll talk about today, because I already feel like I'm talking more than I was expecting to, but that's fine. Sometimes people struggle coming up with these particular ideas, and so there's a way to make this a little more tangible for them. And that's to say, specifically come up with some person who is in the middle of some action. So, for example, that might be 2 men fighting over a roll of toilet paper or a pack of toilet paper, maybe the last pack of toilet paper. It could be the landlord putting an eviction notice on a doorway. It could be someone delivering food to a neighbor and leaving it outside of the door and then knocking and walking away. So all of those things are characters who are in the middle of some action. And just to clarify what we mean by action, thank you. Wow, we're up to 5 people on. We're talking about action. We're talking about something that changes the circumstances on stage or in the world of the play. So an action isn't necessarily just somebody walking. I mean, walking could be an action, but what we're really talking about is somebody doing something that makes a difference. So anyway, I don't know. It's good to see that there were up to 5 people in here. That's kind of awesome for my little test run. My plan, before I go, and obviously I'll post this, is I'm going to do the Young Playwright's Guide to Avoiding Rejection next week. I think I'm going to do it next Thursday at 11 p.m. Pacific. And what that is over the years, just from reading so many plays, from having adjudicated playwriting at Florida Thespians for the last 4 years, we're still actually adjudicating them this year. The youth plays competition for which I read, and just seeing all the errors that young playwrights have made over the years, I've developed a really, really long list of things not to do. And on Thursday, I'm going to go through this really, really, really long list of things not to do if you want to write a successful play. And it's going to be everything from submission guidelines and how to follow them and formatting, to things like avoiding, we'll say, the twist ending and why it almost never works. So with that, I'm going to thank you all for coming. I wish this video were a little shorter, but it's a good start. The next one actually will be about 90 minutes. So thanks everyone, and thank you for joining my live stream, and encourage people to subscribe. And if you're doing some online classes, which I assume that everybody's going to be doing soon, we got one more person just as we're getting ready to end. But I would assume that this I'm going to leave this up as a replay, and you'll have to wade through me talking. And saying a bunch of irrelevant stuff, but you'll also hopefully hear me saying some good things. And this can be something that you can use with your online kids, whether you use the 5 or 10 seeds or however many you do, or the 5 characters in the midst of action. You've got a couple of options, and it's great practice just to do it on a daily or at least a regular basis. Just to get people thinking creatively. So thank you all, and hopefully I will see you and some others next week for Young Playwrights Guide to Avoiding Rejection. Take care.